we're going to go ahead and dive in to the meat and potatoes of the podcast, which is talking about My Lady Jane. For those who may or may not know, My Lady Jane is a new show that came out on Amazon Prime. It is a historical romance with a fantastical twist, and it is based off of a novel by the same name. And this show is centered around the real life 16th century English royal, Lady Jane Grey, who ends up in an arranged marriage with Lord Guilford Dudley. Well, that's what happens in the show. And in the book, that's written by Jodie Meadows, Brodie Ashton, and Cynthia Hand. And the show premiered on Amazon Prime in June. But news broke that the show was canceled in August. The official reason why the show was canceled, nobody knows. Maybe it was because of ratings. Maybe because it didn't catch on with Prime viewers. Whatever that means. But the show was given pretty positive reviews, some middling reviews. But overall, it's kind of a fantastical twist on the story of Lady Jane Grey. Because the real Lady Jane Grey was married and then beheaded after 9 days after she was married, right?
No, but essentially she was queen of England for like 9 days and then was later beheaded.
Right. So this show is a little bit of a twist where she doesn't get beheaded. And there are also this fantastical twist of the Ethians, which is a group of people who could change into animal forms and who are oppressed and outcast by the Verity, the normal humans that rule over everything and have bigoted opinions about their furry friends. So that's the basic synopsis of the show. It's also praised by George R.R. Martin because he really wanted the show to have a second season, which I kind of agree. I did enjoy the show when I was watching it. I'm not gonna lie. I think it was definitely the second episode when they get married and she faints and then Dudley is looking down at her and I'm like, oh my gosh, wait. This is about to eat so hard because I've been looking for a romance and I'm looking for a slow burn. And sometimes I want a slow burn that I can see visually, not a slow burn that I'm reading. Okay, sometimes I gotta log off of AO3 and leave the library behind and see a slow burn in action. And this show, I have to say, was very good. In terms of the romance, it was very good. Some other parts of it, I can see why I got the middling reviews, but Princess, I wanted to get your take. What was your opinion of the show after you watched it? What did you think about it? How did you feel about the show?
I feel so bad to say this, but this was one of the most agonizing things I've ever had to watch. And it's not because the show is bad, but the historical inaccuracies were literally killing me. And I like Rain. I'll defend Rain, but this was just and I know people were it says at the very beginning it's an alternative history, right. and I'm like, girl, this alternative might as well just not be Lady Jane Grey. That's kind of the whole thing for me. Is at every turn I'm like, why is she even here? Why is this not an original story with a fictional kingdom with a fictional stakes and that? I'm I don't understand why putting her why choose to attach your story to a real historical person of whom we have some knowledge of who they were and what they stood for politically, and then include none of that in the adaptation. And I think despite understanding other people especially the romance stuff for it, that was the really big thing for me. And I just kind of feel I enjoy Bridgerton for a degree. I don't really like the Buccaneers, but I understand that period dramas do different things for different people, but I don't understand why there is this lack of seriousness around female historical figures. The girly popification of every single historical female ruler is a little exhausting at this point, because it's even at their state of being consorts, these were very serious women, and women whose actions, whether it be passive or active, had real historical consequences. And it just feels it was just so juvenile, and I couldn't appreciate that. And so it was just very hard for me to watch it, because even from the very beginning, all of a sudden Jane Grey's father is dead, and I'm what? Because like Jane Grey's father is like the reason why she ends up getting beheaded in real life, because he ends up like leading a rebellion that like after she's deposed that makes Mary have to chop off her head. And I'm like, okay. And like, and then there was a line in the first episode where she's like, I always thought I would be able to marry for love, and I'm like, why would you think that? Like, it's just like it was just so cliche. It's like not only because like I know so much about that time period, but I think it's just like I wasn't seeing a character that I haven't already seen before in like 25 different fonts, and so like I'll end my ramble to say like it was agonizing, but I'm glad that people enjoyed it. I think it could have definitely deserved a second season, but it was definitely like really agonizing for me to watch.
I completely understand, and I feel like this is something that people have kind of gotten used to when it comes to historical dramas or like period dramas, that there is going to be some kind of there's going to be a level of inaccuracy, especially with the popularization of Bridgerton. You know, the fact that it is very diverse in casting because, of course, Shonda. And it's kind of like this alternative history. We're just like enjoying this very, liberal take on what was like back then with like, a black queen and a white king. And, I like Bridgerton. I like Queen Charlotte a lot more. I enjoyed that little story. It was very cute to me. And I think for me personally, I find that it could be that showrunners or like streamers believe the audiences are, for lack of a better word, stupid.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why the Mean Girls movie had like that terrible music mixing, because they believe the audiences don't want to watch musicals. They think the audiences don't like to read. Audiences don't care about history. They don't want to do their research. And they just want something that is pop, feminism, and a little bit of history in there, because they like the dresses, they like the castles, they like the setting, but not the actual context within that historical setting.
And that's exactly what this felt like to me. And it was like, wait, I'll let you finish, but yeah, like that's literally exactly how I felt about it, like the entire time. I was like,
yeah, and I feel like that is incorrect, because there's a show called Wolf Hall on BBC that is, it's not exactly historically accurate, but it's about Henry VIII.
It's about Thomas Cromwell, the advisor to Henry VIII, through his reigns of like divorcing Catherine of Aragon to him divorcing Anne of Cleves.
And that show's pretty popular. That show's well reviewed, and people like that show. And I know that like a lot of times with other shows based on like historical accuracy, sometimes they're popular, sometimes they're not. But then there's another example I have, which I have no other example except Merlin, which is like, it's King Arthur and Merlin, which is also the tales of, fantasy and fiction, but people really enjoyed that show. I really love that show. I still rewatch it sometimes.
Yeah, and I have a Guinevere art piece on my wall. I do have a soft spot for Merlin.
Yeah. So I feel like there is an audience for historical accuracy, and there's an audience that wants to, engage in period dramas and something that is based in like realism, fact, but showrunners, streamers, executives, they're a little too scared to be a little too, like nerdy about that. So they want to give a more like, a little softer version, something a little more popular, something a little more fun. Yeah. And when I was watching the first episode and I saw her maid, I guess, or like her friend, her maid, her friend.
Her maid friend, yeah.
When she turned into a falcon, I was like, oh. I'm not gonna lie, when I first tried to watch the show and I saw the maid turn into a falcon, then I was like, okay. And I immediately clicked off. I was like, I'm going to watch something else.
That's today, Satan.
I was like, okay, I could do alternative history. I can do like a young woman who's living in like a period drama in the past, 16th century England, being like, I want to marry for love. Girl, Ain't nobody married for love at that time, but like, let's go with it.
Especially not you. Okay, so let me. Can I just get on the little soapbox really quick? The reason
Go
why this
for it.
annoys me is because, like, okay, so Lady Jane Grey is the niece, is the great niece of Henry VIII, which means she's in the line of succession, and the generation before her, there was a niece of Henry VIII who tried to get married for love without permission, and she ended up getting totally fucked over. And so Henry made it a law that like no one who's related to the king can get married without the king's permission. So there was just absolutely no way she was gonna choose who the fuck she was gonna be with. So when she said that, I'm like, girl, don't you know that your cousin literally got fucked over like 3 weeks ago? Like it was just, I was just truly like agog at just how, for the sake of hitting all of these plot beats, it made her story so generic. I was just like, the eagle, honestly, I was like, okay, girl, give us something. Give me something. And that came close.
And I know it's based off of a book, and I haven't read the novel, so I don't know how faithful it is to the adaptation of that. But you're right in saying that, like, it would be better if they just did a completely new story. You know, like, you don't have to base it
Yeah.
in Lady Jane Grey, someone who is well known in history, someone that people can, like, research and figure out that this show was completely inaccurate. And if you were to do something completely different, new character, you know, new setting, and just keep everything else the same, it probably still would have worked. And it's not that like the historical inaccuracies is what canceled the show, but at least like if it was an original story, not based on somebody that we know in history, people would have still liked it. And
Yeah.
when I was watching My Lady Jane, I just couldn't help but think about the Apothecary Diaries and how
My favorite.
yes. And that show, it's not historically accurate either, but it's a historical fiction. And
Mm-hmm.
there are parts of it that are grounded in terms of like, you know, Chinese history. And so there are parts of it that are real and that could actually happen, but it's not based on anybody who is real. So
Exactly.
they could have done something similar to that. Not that people knew what the Apothecary Diaries was until season 2 came out, because that's when it got so popular. But it's like, I guess showrunners or executives, like I said before, they don't want to hedge their bets on something that's too risky. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
making a show that's historically accurate. What are we, a bunch of fucking nerds?